Want to know what's happening in the community? Subscribe to our e-newsletter, Playford News, at playford.sa.gov.au, and you'll be on top of stories, news and what's happening in Playford. It's local news for local people.
Want to get involved in your community? There are so many benefits in becoming a volunteer at City of Playford, including meeting new people, developing new skills, sharing your talents, improving your employability, as well as enhancing your own mental health and well-being.
If you want to learn more about how to volunteer with us, visit playford.sa.gov.au/volunteers. Feedback about our city's future from our community is really important. It helps us prioritise your needs when planning services, projects and other initiatives.
A convenient way to have your say and stay in the loop on any upcoming consultations is by registering your details on our Engagement Hub website at playford.engagementhub.com.au.
We look forward to hearing from you.
Have you visited the Stratton Centre on Peachy Road, Manapara? Designed to support growth in the city of Playford, the centre offers dedicated workspaces from less than $10 per day. There's also state-of-the-art event and meeting spaces for hire, a complimentary business support service to help you upskill, apply for grants and grow, workshops and networking, as well as training for young kids right through to adults, plus the City of Playford Library.
Contact our team for a tour on 8254 4666 or visit the Stratton Centre at 307 Peachy Road, Manapara.
Support your local theatre and arts industry and enjoy a show at the Shedley. Playford's iconic Shedley Theatre is bringing a great selection of local and national performances to Elizabeth.
For more information on their upcoming shows, visit theshedley.com.au or call 8256 0500.
Did you know your food scraps should go in the green bin or a home compost system? It's better for the environment. It's the right thing to do. And it's easy. Fight food waste by putting all your food scraps, peels and leftovers in the green bin. To find out more, visit playford.sa.gov.au/fightfoodwaste.
Want to know what's happening in the community? Subscribe to our e-newsletter, Playford News, at playford.sa.gov.au, and you'll be on top of stories, news and what's happening in Playford. It's local news for local people.
Good evening all, and welcome to this August meeting of the City of Playford Council Assessment Panel. Take this opportunity to welcome members and staff and those who have joined us in the gallery and online this evening. I will shortly run through some introductions, but I'll just start by reading our acknowledgement of country. We would like to acknowledge that this land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. The City of Playford would also like to pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. Now, as we do have a gallery with us this evening, I'll just introduce the members to you. So the members of the panel this evening, to my left we have Aaron Curtis, and then online we have Adam Squires, who you should be able to see on the screen there. We have Paul Micken, and we have our deputy elected member, Tanya, who's joined us this evening. So thank you very much for stepping in Misty's absence. We really appreciate that. My name's Jeff Parsons, I'm the presiding member. And we are ably assisted by a number of members of Council's administration with us tonight. We have Matt, our assessment manager, and Leif, our manager of planning services. And we also have a number of our planning staff who have joined us, our governance staff and our IT staff who ensure that everything runs smoothly this evening. So welcome to you. We do have a few administrative items we need to get to, and then we'll get into our items for consideration. So members, in terms of apologies, we do have an apology from Misty, so we'll make sure that's noted in the minutes. The minutes of the last meeting. Last meeting was held on the 17th of July 2025. All members received a copy of those minutes. Any questions in relation to the minutes? No? In that case, I'm looking for a mover that they be adopted, please. Paul, you're moving, thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded, Adam, thank you. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that's carried unanimously. Our applications withdrawn tonight is nil. Is there any declaration of interest any member would like to make in respect of any of the items before us? Yes, Tanya.
You, Presiding Member. I just would like to declare a conflict of interest for 6.2 and I'll remove myself from the meeting.
Thank you very much for that. And Adam.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, yeah, look, I'll also be declaring a conflict for item 6.2 and stepping out for that one.
Thank you very much. We will still have Paul, Aaron and myself in the room, so we'll still have a quorum. So when we get to that item, we'll make the arrangements for that. Thank you. Now, there are no applications for persons wishing to be heard. Now, members, before we move into the next item on our agenda, that is the review of the decision of the assessment manager, we do have an item that appears later on in our agenda, which is item 9.1.1, and that is a report that puts a policy in front of us to enable those reviews of the assessment manager decisions to be I guess, heard and put through the correct procedure. Before we get to the review of the assessment manager decision item, we do have, I think it's appropriate that we consider that policy and adopt that if members are of that view. So I would, I guess, seek the leave of the meeting to bring that item forward to consider now. Do members have any objection to that approach? No? All right, in that case, we will bring that matter forward. So we'll now consider item 9.1.1, and in doing so, I might ask perhaps Matt and Leif whether they have any comments that they would like to make in respect to this before I open it up to the members for questions. No? No further comments? No? All right, members, you've had a chance to consider that policy. It's relatively straightforward and is based on the Local Government Association of South Australia template. Any members have any questions in respect to it? None from Adam? No? No? Yes, Tanya? Yeah.
Presiding Member, I guess the only question I do have is there going to be perhaps a review date of this particular document and when that would be likely?
Thank you for the question. We are currently reviewing our operating procedures and we intend to put this as part of the operating procedures, which we endeavour to do in the next couple of months and bring this back to the Council Assessment Panel as a combined operating procedures inclusive of this policy.
My question would be, would this be continually reviewed annually? Twice every second year? Is there a time frame of it to be reviewed again by CAP? Every 2 years?
2 years.
All right, thank you. That's good clarification. Any further questions? In that case, members, there is a recommendation that the policy be adopted. Someone prepared to move in that direction? Yeah, Paul, you're moving, thank you. And Adam, you're seconding, thank you. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And it's carried unanimously. So that policy is adopted for the purposes of reviews of the decisions of the assessment manager. So we'll now move back to our normal order of items for the agenda. So, this first item for consideration is the review of the decision of the assessment manager, and it relates to the construction of a carport. The applicant was Mr. Richard Hode and Mrs. Lindy Hode. Located at 12 Concord Way, Andrews Farm, in the Master Plan Neighbourhood Zone, and it was a performance assessed application. Now, members, I think this is the first of these sorts of matters that we've considered as a panel, is my understanding, and I guess for the benefit of those who are here, including those in the gallery, this application has actually been considered and assessed by the assessment manager already, and a decision has been made to refuse the application. The applicant for that has a right of appeal for 2 avenues. They can apply to the ERD court for I guess as an appeal against that decision. They also have the right to ask the council assessment panel for a review of that decision to see whether or not we support the decision of the assessment manager. But we have several options. We can, as I said, affirm that decision of the assessment manager. We can set aside the decision, which would in effect be granting planning consent to the application, or we could defer our consideration for further information. So we obviously have a report that's been put before us by the administration, and we have all of the application documents as well as some submissions that have been put forward to us from the applicant. Now, there was some clarification, some regulation changes in recent times which clarified that an applicant does have a right to be heard by a council assessment panel in support of their reviews. So we will shortly get to that, and I'll explain a little bit about how that process works. Then there'll be an opportunity for the assessment manager or their delegate to respond, and then the panel can obviously ask questions of the applicant and the assessment manager or their delegate, and then debate the item and work out which option we think is appropriate in terms of conducting this review. So all of that said, Richard, I understand you're going to speak to the item this evening and present to us. So I do provide 5 minutes within which to do that. I do normally just keep track of time. I afford the same period of time to the assessment manager or their delegate. That's the way our normal hearing of representations process runs. So if you just get close to that mark, I'll ask you to begin summing up. It is important to note that the panel does have as part of its agenda all of the documentation that was submitted as part of the application, including the documentation you've recently submitted. And we've had a chance to view that, so this is really a good opportunity for you to highlight those key points and arguments you'd like us to consider this evening. When you're finished speaking, the panel may have questions of you, so I'll invite you to stay up at the podium, and if there are any questions, you're welcome to answer those. I also understand that you've had some additional handouts that you'd like the panel to look at this evening. I, as the presiding member, have agreed to accept those, and they've been distributed to the members. So the only exception to that is obviously our member who's online, who we can't physically pass it to, but we'll do our best to make sure he understands what we're looking at. So Richard, I'm happy if you want to just come up to the podium here, just next to Leif. That way we can make sure that the member online can hear you through the microphone system.
Okay, yeah. I just have to apologise to start out. I've got bronchitis, so I'm losing my voice. Okay. First up, thank you for allowing me to attend this meeting of the assessment panel. As members of the panel, you've had the opportunity to review our application to have a carport erected forward of our house. I'd like to start off, as you've got that information and read that, I don't need to go through it all again, but I'd like to start with a couple of precedents I've come up with. There's a legal basis for performance-based assessment under the Planning, Development and Infrastructure Act of 2016 SA and the Planning and Design Code as of March 2021. A development that does not meet deemed to satisfy criteria, like not being forward of a dwelling, can still be assessed on performance under Section 107 of the Act. Our proposed carport must therefore be assessed under the intent of the zone, not solely by the numeric setback rule. The following are a small number of the RD court precedents summarised as Pergolas of Distinction versus City of Charles 2024. Open carport proposed forward of the dwelling. Council refused on setback rule. ERD court overturned the refusal. The court found that the carport did not unreasonably detract from the streetscape or adjoining land. That particular example is Cemetery I own. That's situated in the court. We're in a small street. They had parkland across from them. We've got parkland across from us. A key quote that the court raised, the fact that a development fails to meet a DST requirement does not automatically mean it should be refused. The visual impact of the carport was neutral in the context of the street. Second one with Zahardis versus City of Marion, 2023. A forward pergola was approved because it was low profile and open, exactly the same as our carport. The court accepted that a non-enclosed structures cause less bulk, even if forward, of the dwelling. Kokonis versus City of Port Adelaide, 2022. Applicant cited accessibility needs of elderly family member. This is the same as our case, myself and my wife. We both need mobility aids. While the design was partially modified, the court acknowledged that health and safety can be relevant facts in the performance-based assessment. Charles Sturt, Dover Gardens, 2023. The Council Assessment Panel found it consistent with neighbourhood form due to similar structures nearby, open design and non-obtrusive visual impact. We've got 18 carports within 2 kilometres of our house. One is 50 metres away, one is 200 metres away. So there's plenty of examples in the area. City of Salisbury, Minor Variance Register 2022-23. Records show multiple forward carports approved under performance pathways, justified based on visual openness, street character and site context. SA Planning has obviously allowed an enormous number of exemptions with the change of planning laws, and our case should also fit into that exemption category. Exemptions. The Council has basically given exemptions to all of the examples we have provided and have not received any complaints. As they haven't received any complaints, they're not going to investigate them any further. We're not complaining about this, but we're just using them as examples. We're asking for an exemption to the rule. All of our reasons are valid. We have a right to have a clear and safe access to our vehicle in all weather conditions. We have a genuine medical reason. When we first moved into our new house, we did have the garage full of moving boxes and other household items. However, they have since been removed, and we do use the garage for parking our vehicle overnight, not as extra storage space noted by the Council in their response to our application. The design of our garage includes 2 single roller doors. It's not just a double door, so we can't move the car around. The side pillars are in line with the walls, again restricting any internal space. When we park the vehicle inside, there's only a 220mm gap like that we've got between the mirrors and the wall. This close proximity leaves us absolutely no room to vary the actual parking or allow anyone to exit the vehicle. As I've provided pictures today, you can see the car doors can't be opened. Sorry, the passenger car door can't be opened. And on the other side, the driver's door can't be opened. We require the carport to be erected so that we can open the car doors fully to have a clear and safe access to our cars in all weather conditions using our mobility aids where necessary. We've spoken to our direct neighbours in our street and none of them have any problems with us having the carport. They also understand our needs. There's only 9 houses in the street, with 5 of them being owner-occupied. With the images I've provided, they clearly show that the inclusion of a carport would have no effect on the streetscape of the street. The carport is black and will blend in with our house, and most of the time we have shade on our house which also camouflages it. At this point, I'd just like to change the subject, as I'd like to raise a dilemma with the council allowing the homeowner to construct a front fence to the height of 2.1 metres without approval. On one hand, the council is saying no to our carport, which will have a major effect on our lifestyle and no effect on the street. That's a big picture of the house with the superimposed carport. On the other hand, the council are allowing anyone to build a fence to the height of 2.1 metres, which will totally block out the street. Now, I've got the right to go home and put iron around my fence to 2.1 metres high, and what would that do to the street? I can paint it pink or blue or any colour I want, and it's legal. Furthermore, the height of that fence is that high from the eaves of the neighbouring houses. There's no logic. I've personally sited fences around the neighbourhood ranging from 2.2 metres to 3 metres, and they've been allowed. I've included in my submission images of our house with a 2.1 metre fence, which I just showed, and it shows how ridiculous it is. It also becomes a blank canvas for graffiti artists. In closing, I hope that the panel can see the common sense and logic with what we've presented and allow us to move forward and have our carport erected to allow us to enjoy our right to having a safe and easy access to our cars in all weather conditions. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Richard. Made your points very well. Thank you. Do you have questions, members? Yes, Tanya.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Thank you so much for your presentation there, Mr. Hoad. I appreciate it very, very much. I have a question. You made a comment with regards to the passenger side being on the left, very up close to the brick.
Yep.
On the right-hand side, you mentioned that the driver's side can't fully open either.
That's right.
Is there a reason for that?
Yes, because the fence is there on the side of the carport. There's no recess from the front pillars. The pillar is in line with the fence straight down, and then when the garage was built, the top half comes down to about this high, comes down, sort of covers the fence and whatever, and so the door can't be open. And apart from my hip, I've got a bad back, and to squeeze out of there, I've got a twist, and it just triggers me back, and I'm gone.
Yeah, no worries. And that's even parked on the left-hand side of your garage?
If I park on the left-hand side, the driver can get out,
Okay.
because there's the gap in the middle. But on the left, you can't, because the door's against the wall.
Okay, no worries. And you made comment about it being 2 single roller doors.
That's
I
right.
acknowledge that. Has there been, I guess you and your lovely wife talked about perhaps a double door roller door? And
We haven't. We bought this house 12 months ago.
okay.
We've been ill for a while, but I don't know what the structural considerations would be in to remove those pillars and then try and put it might be even too wide to have a door, I don't know.
Yeah, okay. No worries, thank you. That's all for me. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tanya. Any other questions, members? No, I don't think so. Thank you very much, Richard. Yep. You're welcome to retake your seat and observe the panel's deliberations on this. Now, there's an opportunity, members, for us to hear from the administration, from the assessment manager or their delegate. I understand Hasitha's going to potentially respond to the comments that have been made. So, Hasitha, would you like to?
For giving me this opportunity. Actually, the proposed carport, what he's proposing in forward to the building line, and basically in terms of the planning and design code, in the master plan neighborhood zone, we need to consider about that. We need to keep minimum 5.5 meter of the building line, and also the basically he provided with the 200 millimeter setback. That is not sufficient, and in this code, it's clearly mentioned that so we can't have anything in front of the building line, and this is very consistent kind of established building line we have in this street, Concord Way. It's very comprehensive and rhythmic one. So if this kind of a structure is proposing forward to the building line, it is going to be a kind of a impact into the streetscape character, and it is distracting from the existing streetscape character. So that's what we believe now. I think I understand and I clearly acknowledge his personal circumstances and everything. It's really appreciated. I know there's a personal reason. We understand that one. And we visited his site, including we had a site meeting with our assessment manager. We acknowledge the situation, but if we are going to approve this one in this context, then it is going to be a kind of a precedent studies in future that for other cases, because we haven't approved any kind of a structure in front of the building line, and within the 5.5 meter of the setback area, in this area, we haven't approved anything, something like similar kind of a structure in this area. So what I'm thinking as an assessing officer for this application, so this is not going to be a good outcome, unfortunately, if we are approving this kind of a structure in this good streetscape, and it is distracting the streetscape character. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your response. I appreciate that. Members, do you have any questions you'd like to pose to the administration? Yes, Adam. Sorry, did you want to make go? Yes.
Apologies, that wasn't meant to be a question. I think I was just made a gesture. Sorry.
No problem. No, my apologies. I misinterpreted. I'm sorry, Richard. I can't take further questions. So the way this process works is that obviously you have an opportunity to make your verbal submissions, and then the assessment manager has the opportunity to respond. But unless the panel has further questions of you, I can't facilitate an ongoing dialogue. I just have to run it in this circumstance. I'm sorry, or run it in this way. I'm sorry. Questions for the administration members? Aaron, sorry, yes.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. When you had the on-site meeting with the applicant, was there any other solutions that you had talked through or could identify that might assist the applicant with the current concerns that they have? Did you see that there was any obvious solution, I guess, other than what is in front of us in the nature of the proposed carport?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, when we met on site and had subsequent site visits as the officers, I think there was really no other, option for, what the proposal and what their needs were. I think what they've put forward in terms of the built form is probably as minimal impact as it could be. Comparatively that to, say, a pitched roof or a bigger structure. So I think in that respect they've done, Richard's done quite well in that respect. I still think What the proposal is does detract from the streetscape, and I don't think there is another design that would get around that aspect, especially being that the built form is only set back just 5.5 metres, so anything forward would really start to detract that, and especially when you need something for the coverage of a vehicle, would need to almost come out to the streetscape, which this does.
Thank you for that. And just one other question. The applicants obviously provided quite a few photos of other examples, and I appreciate in the documentation it talks to, I guess, council acknowledging there's many, examples out there. They're not in the locality. Some may or may not have been approved. Does, I guess, the administration have a position around when structures forward of a dwelling may be appropriate? Is there any context to when they may be considered, or is it generally the case that the council will staff be fairly, I guess, firm in terms of structures forward?
I think we can be, our position is generally that we aren't supportive of structures forward of the dwelling. We do take into context streetscape or other maybe nuances of that locality, but for the most part I'd say our position of any structures forward of a dwelling, especially when there is such a uniformed streetscape, is definitely not supported as a common position.
Thank you. Any further questions, members? No. Yes, sorry, Paul.
Nothing really turns on this matter, but I'm wondering, is there a developer encumbrance on the land relating to fencing, structures and the like?
In terms of the information we got from the applicant, and we checked that one, everything, and we haven't received anything specially with the encumbrances in this area. Yeah.
All right, members, it appears we have exhausted our list of questions for the administration. So there is now an opportunity for us to debate this matter and put our views forward. As I said at the outset, this is perhaps slightly different to a normal report. For a normal report and a normal assessment item, we would have a clear recommendation from the administration, but when it's a review of an assessment manager decision, we essentially have three options, and we can choose whichever of those options we feel is appropriate in the circumstances. So what are your views in respect of this matter? Who would like to go first? Paul, thank you.
Happy to start off. Firstly, thank the applicant for the extensive information supplied, which no doubt took many hours of walking the streets via Google Maps, and quite a monumental effort. I think this situation highlights the government's desire to increase parking standards for internal garages. It'd be a crazy situation if the driver is unable to exit the vehicle if it's parked on the right. I'm sure that it must be very, very challenging, but it highlights the need for change. I also sympathise with the applicant's desire for safe and convenient access and entry to the car, especially if it's happening outside and during inclement weather. I think, although it will be complex, I think the current situation does provide opportunity to do that, although it would include several manoeuvres of the vehicle, which may not be convenient, but it is possible. I think despite being provided with numerous examples of other carports forward of building line within the council area, the reality is that there are no other precedents in this street or the immediate locality. I think the applicant said about 50 or 200 metres away. And likewise, there's very few examples where those structures are only 400 millimetres from the street frontage. So I think this would be a first, certainly for the locality and possibly for a large part of the council area. I think given that the driver is able to access the vehicle while it's in the garage or carport. I think they need to explore other options, perhaps to provide weather cover for a passenger when they're entering the vehicle, and that's perhaps maybe a minor canopy veranda over that portion of where the car's parked, halfway in the garage, halfway out. We're not here to come up with a solution, but I don't believe that the proposal as presented with a carport 400 millimetres from the street is appropriate, and I support the what's the recommendation to reinforce the assessment manager's decision.
Thank you. Darren.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, I also agree with Paul. I do sympathise with the applicant and their situation. Clearly, we can see that they have difficulties getting in and out of the garage. It's not fit for purpose. I think the situation is less than ideal, and it's not really a workable outcome for them. But equally, I guess we have to balance the concerns and their difficulties in using the garage with also policies in the code and what ultimately everyone else has, I guess, an expectation those policies will be applied. There's a clearly expressed performance outcome that seeks that ancillary structures and buildings don't detract from the streetscape. I agree with the applicant's submission that we can't be relying on the DTS policy. We have to turn our mind to the performance outcome. But in this case, I'm of the view that the structure as proposed, being very close to the front boundary, would have a detrimental impact on the streetscape. I have acknowledged there's a number of examples that the applicant has referred us to which aren't in the locality. I don't think we can place any weight on them. We do need to consider the development in the locality. I consider this would be a first intrusion, as Paul has suggested, and would then be a basis for, I guess, other examples to be presented or put forward to argue that they're then appropriate and that could then substantially change the streetscape in this locality. I think I do agree with the applicant's point in relation to, yes, if there isn't an encumbrance on the property, they could potentially put up a 2.1 metre fence, which makes no sense when you consider that a structure in the nature of a carport is open, whereas a front fence arguably has much greater level of impact on the streetscape. Unfortunately, the rules under the Act and the regulations mean that you can put up a 2.1 metre fence without approval, and therefore I think we can't really place any weight on that fact in determining this matter. So overall, I'm of the mind to reaffirm the view of staff in this matter.
Thank you. Adam.
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, look, I do understand the nature of this application is a challenging one, particularly given some of the personal circumstances of the applicant. So very conscious of that, and I would commend them on a pretty comprehensive submission in support of their application and the work done to provide a level of justification for the panel's consideration. Like my fellow panel members, though, I do tend to the view that there will be an impact to the streetscape. The setback to the front is quite minimal, and by nature of a master plan zone, you do get these uniform setbacks in a pretty consistent pattern, both along this street, within the immediate locality, and even within the wider locality of what I imagine was originally a single master plan development. I did sort of go beyond the locality, sort of looking for some examples, and it is pretty consistent. There are no wider examples within this area of the carports and structures forward of the dwelling, and while there are examples that were provided to us, a lot of those are within the established areas where you do get more of a variety in setbacks or deeper setbacks. So it was, limited weight to be given to those in my consideration. I'm of the view that the panel would, the regional officer's decision and the assessment manager's decision was the correct one in this instance.
Thanks, Adam. Tanya.
Thank you for that. My heart for the applicant, oh my goodness, I can understand why the carport would be such a benefit to them as a family. Noting that they've been living there for, bought it in the last 12 months. It's just one of those things where they've obviously sought a benefit to them as a family, and this would actually make their life a lot easier. I do understand with regard to that setting the precedence in this particular area. I look at it and go, in accordance with policy, and having that setback is required, and then the applicant had made a statement with regards to the assessment 107 within the Act to talk about the streetscape and the character of that particular carport. For me, looking at the photos, that is, admittedly I have not done a drive-by, but looking at the way this particular picture is, it doesn't look like it's going to cause too much of a streetscape issue. So I think my considerations moving forward is, you know, perhaps there is scope for the applicant to change the size of the carport, or perhaps look at other matters with a double door or like a single door. My heart sort of goes, okay, well, this particular applicant needs it for their life, but then in accordance with the policy and with regards to the assessment manager, with what has been presented to them, it doesn't align with the Act. I think for the future, I note that these car parks and our blocks are, the blocks aren't catering for off-road parking at times, and having that car park would be really beneficial for this member. So I'm still sitting on the fence. I would love to I would like to say, yes, let's give this carport to the member, but then I do understand the assessment manager's point of view with regards to the policy. So, Presiding Member, I'll just wait out for my particular decision, and I will make a decision shortly. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. I'll put it to a vote shortly. So, look, my views, members, I guess similar to a majority of members in that I'm certainly sympathetic to the personal circumstances of the applicant, and I think the arguments that have been put forward by the applicant are really extensive. Perhaps some of the best I've seen in terms of trying to justify a position, having seen a number of other of these in the past. So I think that certainly was beneficial for the panel's consideration. I do think the siting of other structures is a relevant consideration, but I think it's a relevant consideration when they're in the locality, and I think that was the difference here for me, was that a number of the examples that were cited were not in this particular streetscape. I do also think the design measures, as Leif mentioned earlier, are beneficial. The carport is as, I guess, minimalist as it possibly can be in terms of its design, and I think if it wasn't sited forward of the dwelling, certainly the streetscape impact would be minimal. But I just, in the end, my view is that I agree with the decision of the assessment manager, and I had that view because there is really an established streetscape pattern in this particular street and locality, which is one where there isn't structures forward of dwellings, and I think if this was to be supported, that would have a detrimental impact on the streetscape. It really introduced an element that's not seen. I think if the locality was different, as one of the other members said, if we were in a more established area where there might be examples of carports forward of the dwelling, then perhaps the streetscape impact wouldn't be so significant, and it might be able to be supported. But in this circumstance, I couldn't bring myself to that point. I agreed with the decision of the assessment manager. So it sounds as if we do have a majority of that view. As I said at the outset, there are a number of options that are presented to us in our agenda, when I can find the correct page, which is pages 17 and 18. Is there a member that's prepared to move one of those options? Aaron, yeah, you're...
Yeah, through the chair, I'll move the recommendation to reaffirm the decision of the assessment manager.
Thank you. I'll take you as the mover. Is there a seconder? Seconder, Paul. Thank you. So I'll put that to a vote. This is the motion that we essentially affirm the decision of the assessment manager. In other words, the application remains refused. All those in favour, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Okay, so that is carried. So for the benefit of those who are with us, just to provide an understanding, because that can be confusing to follow, the panel has essentially resolved to affirm the decision of the assessment manager. That is, the panel has essentially upheld the refusal, so the carport still remains refused. Now, there might be options that the applicant might wish to consider, which could include an appeal through to the ERD court. It might also include, as one of the other members said, the consideration of potential other design options. As a panel, we're not able to help you through the consideration of what those design options might be, but the administration might be able to assist you and provide some comments. So I would certainly suggest that if you've got questions about your options from here, whether they be further appeals or other design options, that I know the administration would be happy to discuss those with you and to talk you through that. So I understand that'll be a disappointing decision, but I hope that at least provides some guidance on a potential pathway forward. We do have several other items to get to on our agenda, so you're welcome to stay with us, or you're also welcome to depart at this point. So thank you for your attendance. We really do appreciate it. Now, members, we have to move to item 6.2. Now, this is an item, obviously, for which we've had a couple of declarations of interest. So, Tanya, I need to ask you just to relocate temporarily, please. And also, Adam, I think we can put you in a virtual meeting waiting area. So thank you for that. Now, members, this is an application for variations to a previously approved application, changes to the internal floor plan, minor alterations and an increase in overall building height. The owners, the City of Playford, which is why the matter is before the council, and the applicant is Peligara Care of Future Urban, located at Lot 8, Prince Charles Street, Elizabeth, performance assessed, and the recommendations to grant planning consent. Miro, do you have anything you'd like to take us through as an introduction to the item, please?
Good evening. So I just refer you to the planning report provided by Future Urban, where it stipulates a net decrease in 179 square metres in net lettable area. After confirmation by the applicant and our calculations, it's actually a net decrease in 117, which is stipulated in the report provided to the panel. I also refer you to the staff recommendation, which is the next part of it, the staff recommendation condition 1, whereby the condition stipulates that development shall be undertaken, completed and maintained in accordance with the plans and information detailed in this application. And then it adds, except where varied by any conditions listed below. We recommend that portion to be removed after application.
Thank you, appreciate that. Now, members, understand we do have a representative of Future Urban with us in the gallery. If we have any questions we would like to pose to the applicant, do you have any questions you would like to pose? Yeah, Aaron, would you like to step forward? Yeah, just come.
Good evening. Just a question in relation to the, it's mentioned in the report in relation to the external glazing, that there's a change to the, in terms of tinting. The perspective on the front page did suggest it's like a darker material, but I wasn't sure if that was just how it was displayed, as opposed to the elevations, which suggest the glazing's more, it has a lighter blue tone. I was just curious to understand if that was just how it was shown, or if there if there was a distinct change to the materiality of the glass, I guess.
Sure, yeah. Through the chair, like I don't necessarily have the tint and the colour of it, but I think the renders definitely show it darker than what it will be, and I think renders can tend to do that, particularly where, I mean, even where printed format comes out darker than what it shows. The intention is to still provide a soft glazing through the building. It's not intentionally trying to be darker. Yes, it is obviously more darker than what it was previously approved as, but overall, my understanding is that it will still be visibly present and provide a high finish to the building and appearance and look and feel. I can't give you the exact percentage, sorry, but my understanding is that that will still present quite nicely to the roads surrounding that site. Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions, members? No? In that case, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Members, do you have any questions for the staff? No? In that case, I seek your views in respect of this matter. We obviously have a good quality package of information that's come forward from the applicant and a good report from the staff. And the recommendation is that planning consent is granted. What are your views in respect of this one? Yes, Paul, thank you.
I don't have a lot to say. I think the minor changes in the whole scheme of the development and the context of the whole development are minor. I think they represent just ongoing fine-tuning, which is understandable for a development of this nature and scale. I think the main issue that I considered was the increased height, but it's only relatively minor. It's towards the centre of the building and won't be, it'll have minimal impact when viewed immediately from the adjacent to the site. It probably won't even be able to be seen. And where it would be visible would be from maybe the Main North Road and Phillip Highway, but again, the distance there, I think the distance from those viewpoints to the site are so large that the increased height would be, I think, would be barely noticeable. That's what I'm trying to say. So I support the recommendation.
Aaron.
Yeah, thanks through the chair. I was also of the same view. I don't have any concerns with the variation, so I'm in support. I did note in the applicant's report they're aware that there will need to be a further referral engagement with the Department of Defence in relation to the increased height, given the buildings over the height limit for that area under the defence control regulations, but I'm not expecting that increase would probably result in any concerns, but it is a separate approval process in any case. So I'm supportive. My only other question is in the recommendation whether, because this is a further variation to the earlier consent, I guess a question for staff is, should we have a condition that makes explicit that the previous conditions of the earlier consent are still ongoing or still apply? Might be something to query with staff to see if that's necessary.
Thank you. Look, I have similar views, members. The use of the land's not changing, nor is a majority of the development. The additional height I thought was reasonable. Paul summarised it very well. It's towards the centre of the building and minimal in context, really. I thought the tinting was probably a beneficial element to improve the look of the building. All setbacks remain consistent, and there's no increase in the demand for car parking. Essentially, the car parking arrangements remain unchanged. So I agree. I do think the suggestion from Aaron regarding perhaps a condition that says that all previous conditions as part of the previous applications remain, I guess remain valid, is a relatively standard condition for variations, and I think there would be some benefit in that. It just draws the applicant's attention to making sure that those previous conditions are still considered. So I might just give our assessment manager a moment to draft that. All right, members, I know we've still got a development application ID to be inserted, but what are your, satisfied with that condition? Yep. All right, excellent. So, members, I might ask if someone's prepared to move that recommendation. Aaron, you're moving, thank you. It's a choice between one of you. And Paul, you're seconding, I assume, thank you. All those in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried unanimously. So for the benefit of those who are with us, the application has received planning consent and obviously the building consent and development approval will still be required before works can commence. If you have any questions, sure, the administration will be happy to assist you in the next business day. So thank you very much. Now, members, we must invite our other members back in. So if we can have Adam and Tanya invited back into the meeting, please. Adam, if you can hear me, you are invited back in, so we'll get you to flip your camera back on, please.
Thank you. Yeah, through the chair, back online. Just having some IT issues. It's okay, so I might leave the camera off.
That's all right, it happens to the best of us. Just bear in mind that I won't be able to see your hand if we get to the voting part, so feel free to pop your microphone off if when we get to that part. Now, members, this is an application for a 3-level mixed-use development comprising community facility, health and wellbeing purposes, short-term accommodation, offices, consulting rooms, car parking, signage, landscaping, and the removal of 5 regulated trees. The applicant's the Women's and Children's Hospital Foundation, and we're talking about a property that is located on Mofflin Road in Elizabeth Vale in a strategic innovation zone, performance assessed. Now, I understand Ria was the assessing officer for the application. Is there anything you'd like to take us through as an introduction, Ria?
Thank you. Through the chair, the applicant sent us an email this morning requesting that an addition be made to condition number 7 with it's to install privacy screening film on the windows that didn't have a obscured glazing or a privacy screen attached to it. We've given the wording when you do consider it, if that can be made into your consideration. Thank you.
No, thank you. Very much appreciated. We did receive that correspondence and we certainly discussed that as part of our assessment. Now, members, we do have the applicant, understand Scott Twine from URPS is here to respond to any questions. Do we have any questions we'd like to pose to the applicant? Yes, in that case, Scott, can I invite you up, please?
Okay, through the chair, just one question. It relates to the parking assessment. Can you just clarify how the conclusion was reached that the supported accommodation units would generate a demand of just one space when the code requires 0.3 spaces? It would be 3 spaces in total. So just explain how you came to that conclusion, or maybe it's one for your traffic engineers.
Yeah, we do have in attendance tonight Jess from Studio 9, Dean from Axios Project Management, and Dean from the Foundation, and Jack from Axios Project Management. We don't have Chris with us from Circa tonight, so I can't speak to the particulars of that answer, unfortunately. But what I can say is it's not unusual in a bespoke assessment for traffic engineers to come to conclusions that alternative car parking rates different to that within the code are appropriate, and naturally there's a number of trade-offs that can be made in that. In this instance, one of the key components is that it is a multi-use facility, so naturally in these facilities there are improvements in terms of efficiencies that lead to car parking reductions, and generally speaking in the bespoke assessment that's been undertaken, the key difference relates to the community facility component. That's where the car parking change largely occurs, appreciating that there is a one car park difference essentially with the supported accommodation as well. I think to talk about it in broader sense, the proposal at the moment relies on a shortfall of 5 car parking spaces, meaning when it's at peak occupancy they would expect 5 car parks to be utilised on street. I would suggest in my view, if that was to increase to 6 car parks as a consequence, then I don't think that would be fatal to the car parking provision in the area. So while I can't give you a particular answer in Circa's position, I would refer back to the broader sense, saying in the context an additional 1 to 2 car parking, in my view, would be acceptable.
Okay, just a follow-up question. So in a sense, it's quite likely that persons who are going to stay in that accommodation are quite likely to have been consulted with or referred during the day downstairs in the community facility, or even the consulting rooms themselves, so they wouldn't be actually generating additional parking. Is that?
Yeah, that's one of the aspects of it, and I think in terms of the support accommodation component as well, referring back to the hours of operation, the office and other areas of the building are 9 to 5, where obviously the support accommodation is outside of those hours. So there will be, when perhaps the peak usage of support accommodation occurs, the rest of the car parking on site will be available as well.
Thank you. Further questions, members? Might just ask Adam, do you have any questions you'd like to pose to the applicant?
No, thank you. No questions.
In that case, thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. Now, members, do you have any questions you'd like to pose to the administration? Yes, Paul. Yep.
Just probably been a little technical here, but excuse me, the report suggests that the parking shortfall is around 5 spaces, but in actual fact, is it, I think the code requires 117, so is the shortfall actually more like 32?
Sorry, through the chair. I guess the calculations arrived on based on the assumption of how the facility is expected to operate. So they've provided us some justifications of how many visitors they're expecting, how many, if the people who are living within the short-term accommodation are expected to be having their own vehicular access or not. So I guess they have come up with a very custom number for the parking spaces, and based on the operation of the provided users, from that the shortage is 5 of what's required.
Thank you. Tanya, did you have a question? Yes. Yeah.
Very much. I guess the question is with regards to the operating hours of the community facility, and you had annotated those particular opening hours for Monday through to Sunday. Is there scope to perhaps increase those once it is in use?
From my understanding, I think they don't have a tenant at the moment that is finalised, but once they do have a tenant and there's a need for more longer hours, that can be dealt with as a matter of variation of the application, should it come to that.
Any further questions, members? Yes, Aaron.
The report talks through, I guess, possibility of looking at parking controls in the area in the future. Is this something that is planned to occur, I guess, to balance, I guess, the opportunity to utilise as best you can on-street parking for uses like this, with also, I guess, the pressure from the broader hospital precinct where you may have staff that are spilling over and trying to find an all-day car park. And I see that as a bit of a tension between facilities like this, which may want to rely on or utilise that car parking. Is there a further investigation or study that's planned in relation to that matter, or is that something that's just continually ongoing by council as part of its typical parking, monitoring and management?
Yep, through the Chair, thank you for the question. I think it's fair to say it's probably both of those. It's one we are continuing monitoring and a discussion we have had with our traffic engineers, and something we're very mindful of is car parking in our health precinct facility, within our health facility. It's a pain point for a lot of people, so it is something we're continuing monitoring and looking to what opportunities we can do moving forward and how we can address car parking more generally for the precinct.
Adam, I might just check if you have any questions for the administration.
Thank you, Chair. No questions.
I think we lost you slightly, but I think that was a no, if I'm interpreting that correctly. So hopefully you can stay with us and hear the discussion, Adam. So, members, if there are no further questions to the administration, then I seek your views in respect of this matter. Obviously, we have a pretty comprehensive application that's been put before us and a good quality report from the administration. And the recommendation is that we grant planning consent. What are your views? Paul, I'll come to you first.
Firstly, I'll make a statement. I don't believe this is seriously at variance with the code. I certainly am convinced that the land use is aligned with the performance outcome 1, in that they're all associated with or ancillary to the provision of health and education services and conductive research. And the applicant's name gives it all away, I guess, being their bread and butter, so to speak. In terms of the built form, I don't have any issues with that. I think the materials, the design provide good articulation and variation. Setbacks increase at each level, resulting in minimal visual and overshadowing impacts. My questions about parking highlighted where my main considerations were given. I think just coming back to the site and the design, I don't think that there's anything fatal in those components. I did have initial concerns with the reduced parking, and given that 117 are required under a strict application of the code requirements, the applicant's consultant has argued that more like 80 odd spaces is more realistic, but then only 75 are provided. So I had to work hard to get my head around that and look at the implications of that. I've concluded that I support the reduction for various reasons. Firstly, is the provision of bicycle parking and proximity to public transport, that there'll be people who won't necessarily drive to the site. Proximity to general off-street parking further, parking facilities to the east. Also, that section of Mofflin Road is a it's an unusual arrangement where it's like a secondary road to the main road leading to, I forget the names, but it's a quiet section, so there's provision for plenty of on-street parking there if on-site provision is not suitable. Also, I think the proximity to the hospital for specialists and users who might use both facilities during the same visit, so people might, for example, park at the hospital or one of the other off-street facilities, go to the hospital and then also to this centre, quite possible. And also, I think probably a lot of car parking of the 117 requirement was assigned to the consulting rooms. But I think it would be unreasonable to apply the standard 4 spaces per room in this case, as theoretically that assumes like a standalone consulting room where there's one space for the consultant or the practitioner, one for the support staff, one for the patient being assessed and one for the patient waiting. That's where the 4 comes from. And I think this is a rather unique proposal where the proposed rooms are more aligned with consulting specialists who would be working with patients downstairs or even over at the hospital and just visiting this site on a very short basis without all that extra support staff and people coming and going just for those consulting rooms. They're there for another purpose. So overall, I support the recommendation.
Thank you. Aaron.
Yeah, thanks through the chair. I also support the recommendation. I agree with Paul's extensive commentary in relation to car parking. Just coming back, I guess, to a high level, I think the form of development and the use is appropriate in the strategic innovation zone. I think it's an appropriate form of development. It's well aligned with the zone desired outcome, performance outcome. And I think it's complementary to a number of developments that are happening in that precinct. And it's clearly this area is an area of transition. It's an evolving character, and you can see that there's more and more activity happening on a lot of those sites to the north of the main hospital precinct. And I think this is evident of what potential there is for further development in this area. I think as a result of it being an area in transition, this site and this development is somewhat in conflict with the existing character, but I see that this zone is seeking a different character. I think in terms of the building, the form and the height and scale, it's clearly pushing the envelope, and I think when you look at the site and the 3-storey height, it's probably at the margins of what is almost getting, and when you evaluate the car parking, but I think it still works. I think there are efficiencies in terms of being able to consolidate 3 properties with the car parking, for example, and having a consolidated car parking arrangement. Also mindful that the policy talks about 250 square metres, but when you consider that's across 3 sites, so you could have 250 square metres for each site, it then sort of speaks to a building more of this scale, although you could argue that the policy is seeking for smaller buildings. But I also see that this type of development can offer something that you wouldn't achieve on one site or one allotment. I think the location's really positive in terms of having a really nice, good outlook to the reserve. There is extensive opportunity for on-street parking, but as I mentioned before, with the tension with the hospital and the precinct, there will be a challenge in terms of broader car parking issues in this area. And when there's further development on other sites in this area, there is a risk that if there's many sites that are underparked, that there will be further parking pressures in the area. So I think that's something that council needs to continue to monitor and manage. And assess each development, I guess, on its merits. I think I looked carefully at the interface with the residential properties. There's obviously 2 properties that interface, the one to the, I think it's north west, and then to the northeast. I think when you look at that northwestern elevation, the building, whilst it's 3 stories, it's been well considered to the interface in terms of the setbacks, limited visual impact, I guess, by having the building stepped. So from an overshadow and sense of bulk and scale, I think it's acceptable. I don't have a problem with the film instead of the fixed glazing. I think it makes sense if those sites are developed in future that the film could be removed, for example. So yeah, I think also it's just a well-presented application. It's extensive, number of reports, quality landscape scheme for the site. I think it's a well-designed building, so overall I'm supportive. Thanks.
Tanya, I might come to you if that's all right, and then I'll go to Adam.
Yeah, no worries, thank you. This particular agenda item, going through the paperwork, I do support. I look at it and go, it would, I guess my concern with regards to the opening hours is affecting the residential area at this present stage around the area, and noting that if it does increase, I guess what that may mean for the area. So thank you for clarifying that. And with regards to the parking, I found quite interesting as well with regards to the amount of allocated parking for the actual area. So overall, I will be supporting this agenda item.
Thank you. Adam, if you can hear me, do you have any comments to make on the application?
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. Hopefully coming through okay. Yeah, if use the other panel members that for the application, the parking, I'm pretty comfortable with given the council's active role in developing the precinct and their inherent knowledge of the pressures and their ability to manage that. I think it's a well-designed application which presents well to the street and will improve the overall aesthetics of the area. So, yeah, supportive of the application.
Thank you. I think we got a majority of that, so thank you. And I certainly heard support. And look, I have similar views, members. The land use anticipated in the zone, it's certainly near public transport routes, which is beneficial. I didn't think the scale was problematic for me. It's perhaps more than is anticipated in the zone, but as members have said, it's an area in transition. There's a lot of other non-residential uses in the locality, and that will only increase. There's also other multi-storey buildings in the locality, and I thought the use itself was relatively low impact and is aligned with really what the area is intended to become. I thought the design was a really positive aspect of the proposal. I thought it was a building with a lot of articulation, good visual interest, different use of materials and colours, with good setbacks and landscaping incorporated. So I thought the design was really positive. The interaction with the public realm was good. And I think while the removal of any tree is regrettable, it was pretty clear that these trees just didn't meet the retention criteria, and really that's the only test that needed to be made. The advertisements were reasonable in my view. I thought that overlooking was reasonably addressed. We've had the request to use film. I think some of the windows are shown as obscure glazing and some aren't shown with any protection. I don't have a concern with having film imposed on those windows, which can be potentially removed at a later date in consultation with council, obviously. Look, I guess just in terms of parking, I think other members have already touched on the concerns that I had. My personal view is I do think it's under car parked. I certainly think the correct approach is that the shortfall is 42, I think, but they say never do maths on the fly, but something around that mark from the code requirements. And I certainly think there's some good rationale for dispensation, and Paul ran through those, and I agree with all of those. I think there is suitable rationale for some dispensation, but my view is that I think it will result in some level of demand for on-street parking, and that is it is a pretty intense on-street parking environment in that locality already. So I didn't think it was enough to sway my view on the merits of the proposal, because I still think overall it's a very good application and a good development that meets a majority of the policy in the planning and design code. So I certainly support it, but I guess I do still have the view that there might be some implications for on-street parking as a result of our support. But it sounds as if we are all in agreement. Now, there was the issue of the film, as I suggested earlier. Now, I understand the administration have prepared a potential Part D to Condition 7. So I'll just wait to see if we can get that on the screen. Okay, members, so I think you can see that in front of you. Essentially, I guess the intent of this is that obscured glazing can be used, or privacy film can be used, and I guess the intent of that is that the locality will, the nature of development of the locality will change over time, and that might mean that having some of that obscure glazing is redundant, and it's obviously a more economically efficient option to remove the film than it is to replace the glass. I still think privacy is afforded through the film, so my personal view is that's an appropriate amendment to the condition. Any members have any comments in respect to that? Yes, Paul.
Just wondering whether Condition 8 then should refer to, rather than the obscured glass, it should be, it's either A or D, so it could be a privacy film. So, yeah.
No, that's an excellent point. I agree with that. Perhaps we could just say the obscured glass / privacy film or something like that. Excellent pickup. Members, any other comments in respect to the recommendation? In that case, I'm looking for a mover. Now, Adam, if you want to shout instead of putting your hand up, that is fine if you want to be involved in that. Someone prepared to move the recommendation?
I'm happy to move it.
Thank you. We will take you as the mover, Adam. Is there a seconder? Seconded, Paul. So I'll put that, all those in favour, and that is carried unanimously. I'll say unanimously because Adam moved it, so I'll take it as his vote is in favour. So for the benefit of those who are with us, that application has been granted planning consent. Obviously is subject to all of those conditions, and building consent, development approval will be required before you can commence. I'm sure planning consultant will be happy to talk to you about the process from here, but if you do have any further questions, you're more than welcome to contact the administration. They'll be happy to assist you. Thank you very much for your attendance. We have a couple of administrative items to get through, so you're welcome to either stay with us or depart at this point, so thank you. Now, members, just returning to our agenda. Now, in terms of appeals and deferred items, is there any update that the staff want to provide? Yes, Leif?
No updates on
that. No. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Is there any other item of other business from panel members? Yes, Paul?
I'm not sure if it's appropriate, but I just had a couple of comments or observations on the review of the assessment manager item. Would you give me leave to just raise those? Yeah, it was more just about the, I guess, the amount of information provided in addition to the assessment manager report. I'll rephrase that. Previous examples I've had experience with review of assessment manager decision at other CAPs is that the report is very brief. It simply states the options to either affirm, vary or overturn without really any commentary. And I'm just wondering, because in my view, the assessment manager's decision or their delegate should stand on its own in terms of the reasons, what's the pros and cons of the application, rather than the officer writing a new report. I think that's just my view. I think could avoid a lot of unnecessary work for the staff. Does that make sense? So I'll just maybe take that on board and have a think about that.
No, thanks for the comment. Happy to take it on board and sort of happy to be directed by the panel as well in terms of the level of detail, the structure of the report for, I guess, these ones as well, being that it was our first one. We just, I guess, reviewed quite a few other, the way a few other councils do it, just to get some, I guess, examples of how we might be able to structure it, but more than happy to accommodate or amend to the preference of the panel as well.
It is interesting because I know some of the other panels I sit on, and obviously the local government I work for, have a different approach. So in their view, they spell out in the report, I guess, the rationale for the decision. So they provide the officer's report, but they also have that, I guess, additional commentary that just seeks to explain the rationale, not necessarily to debunk the applicant's arguments, just to rationalise why they made the decision. So, and I must admit, I tend to find that useful, but that, again, that's just my view. Yeah, it is interesting. As a panel, we probably need to find the right balance.
I think it's good points that Paul and Jeff have raised. I've seen like two different approaches from different councils or panels, how they approach this. There's one view that is more strict to say, well, if there's a review, then the panel should only see the information that the assessment manager had available, because then it's not really fair on the assessment manager that the applicants then had an opportunity to come back and present more information. And sometimes that may change the view of the decision. And equally, if you're going to allow the applicant to present more information, I think it's also important that the assessment manager has an opportunity to, comment or provide a further submission in relation to, because otherwise we're giving the applicant the opportunity to present further information, but we don't have the balance of information from staff. So the other view is, like, if you're allowing further information to be presented and the objective is to try and find a resolution, that's why there's sometimes some benefit to doing that, because if it means there's a better outcome and it gets to a point where the application might be approved, then I see there is a benefit of allowing further information. I think in this case, there was limited options. It was almost like you accept it or you don't. But in other cases, there may be other alternatives that could result in a better outcome. So I'm more in favour of the opportunity to provide further opportunity for submissions, but I understand why some other councils haven't done that.
I think that's really good points to chat through, and something that we can make sure we put in as part of our operating procedures. I think personally, we would prefer the latter as well, the opportunity to provide, if there is an alternative, to get a resolution, if there is a way that could be done. I think from an administration level, Matt, feel free to jump in if it's not speaking on. If there is a resolution or slight amendment that could be made, we'd much rather get to that position, and we'll be quite comfortable in doing that. So it would be definitely towards the latter of that side of things, and I think we'd continue. That's how we'll draft the operating procedures, but obviously as we bring them back to the panel, if there's a different view on that, we can also amend as need as well.
All right, thank you. Good. Yeah, good discussion. It is interesting, different ways of doing it across local government. So I guess we'll wait for the amended policy to come back before us and we can provide some comment on that. All right, any other item of other business from members? No. Any other business from the staff? No. Okay. Thank you. No confidential matters, and any item of planning policy that any member wishes to raise? No? Okay. So I'm happy to declare the meeting closed at 7:26 p.m. Thank you, members, for your attendance and deliberation on those items. Thank you to the staff for all your assistance and support. It's very much appreciated, and thank you to our two young special guests who were quite well behaved during the meeting. So thank you very much. Good evening.
Did you know your food scraps should go in the green bin or a home compost system? It's better for the environment. It's the right thing to do. And it's easy. Fight food waste by putting all your food scraps, peels and leftovers in the green bin. To find out more, visit playford.sa.gov.au/fightfoodwaste.
Want to know what's happening in the community? Subscribe to our e-newsletter, Playford News, at